1942, I think it's a WLA, I'm not even sure. Yeah, it's a WLA 1942 750. It's a flathead engine, obviously. And the reason we hold the two records in this class for partially streamlined and vintage. We hold the fuel record and we hold the gas record. The gas record's around 112, the other one's around 118. And but for this class, we built this bike specifically to be a Brough Superior. That is a specific racer built in the 1940s. And we wanted to prove that the flathead engine is still superior to the overhead valve engine when it's made in Milwaukee. And what we've done with this is to beat that record and to bring it back, because the records that we hold also were against overhead valve 750s. So that still proves that to me. And these, as you can see when I started it up, this bike can idle, it starts first kick. That's after been sitting for a year. So it's still a very reliable motorcycle, but it's really fast for what it is. One thing we're dealing with there is that you're dealing with about 5,000 feet elevation and a temperature of about 105, usually to around 90-something degrees Fahrenheit. So your air density is about the same. When we set the record the last time, the air density was the same as 8,000 feet. So you're losing 20%. So if you started off and you had, say, you've got, let's say you got 100 horsepower, well, now you got 80. So you're dropping that much. So this bike here, around here, would probably do an easy, I would say around 120. But at Bonneville, we'll be lucky. I'm hoping this will do about 108 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure it'll get there. And with fuel, I think I can do 115 to around 120 with it, depending on how long that. Depending on the track conditions too. Being a fairly limited horsepower bike, if the track's soft, it's going to make a bit of a difference for top end. And again, we've had really bad luck for headwinds. You run one way and then you set a record. You have a couple hours to come back and do it the other way. Well, for everybody else, it seems that they get a tailwind when they come back. For some reason, gods of speed, they always give us a headwind both ways. So we get there and we go, oh boy, we got a 12-mile-an-hour fucking tailwind. We're going to set the world on fire. We get there. By the time we get there and get on the bike and finally get out, it's 12 miles the other way. So whatever. So hopefully if we get a good tailwind, we might even do better speeds. If we keep the same, well, hopefully we'll break it. But anyway, as a bike, Gary built the frame. We used a Honda motocross front end cut down again. We always use those. You can cut them down and the dampening still works. We like putting about fucking 40 weight oil in it. It slows it down enough. And anyway, that works good. It's got quite a bit of rake on it. We use a 21-inch front wheel because the track can be really, it falls apart pretty good now. There's not much salt base, and you'll get potholes like that deep. And you won't see them until you hit them. And you couldn't turn if you did. So you're hitting them dead on. Once with that, the motor itself, there's a lot of small things done to it. As you see, the manifold used to come out this side here, and it would come in a V, where the gas has to come in and the air and gas has to come in and turn 90 degrees and come back into the cylinders. That works fine for the street, and they were a real good engine, but this way we're going straight into the cylinder. With an offset on the way it comes into the cylinder, it causes swirling in the cylinder, which keeps the mixture in suspension. With big carburetors and that, what happens, they tend to run really what people think is rich, but they're actually lean, because the air is going through so small, the droplets aren't vaporized to the point that they require, or they'll produce good combustion. So what happens is they keep making it richer, so it's super fucking rich, but yet when you're driving it down the road at 100 miles an hour, it's super fucking lean. So this way, it comes in there, you're getting velocity of about 400 feet per second down. These are 26 millimeter with 26 millimeter intakes. They're about, by the time it goes from the valve to from the start of the intake to the valve, it's about 9 inches. So when that air starts moving at 400 feet per second, it picks up, it gives a really good signal, which means the air can pick up that stuff, vaporize it, really vaporize it. As it's going, when the valve closes, all that air that's speeded up to 300, 400 feet per second stops when the valve closes for an instant. It builds up almost over atmospheric, so it's almost like having a supercharger in a way, but with a very low boost. So once that goes in there, the valve opens, it hits at an offset, and it swirls the fucking gas around and punches it down. The compression ratio on this one's only 6.5 to 1, which is really low. But for a 45, it's actually fairly high. With the cams and this intake, kicking it over, it'll give you 110 pounds compression with a 6.5:1 compression ratio, which is, it doesn't make sense because it should only be about 70 pounds. But with the intake and the cams, it'll trap that much. That's at a kickstart. So if this thing was running at full speed, you can imagine the dynamic compression is actually quite high. So that's obviously the horsepower rises with that. But it's another thing with the pipes, as you can see, it's pretty much works really good for a 45. They're about 31.5 inches long. They're just under ½ inch. We tapered them down just a bit. That speeds that up too. And in the instance when in the overlap of the camshaft, that will give you a time where the gas is going through there very quickly. It's drawing, when those are too open, it helps the intake suck in. Because if you're just allowing on the piston going down to create suction, it won't be enough to ever fill that cylinder. So you're using that, so when they're both over and overlap, the exhaust is going out, it's creating a suction in the cylinder that's helping the mixture go into the cylinder and fill the cylinder. So you're getting a pretty full cylinder. You're opening them very, very early. This opens about 64 degrees before top dead center. So that valve is opening while the fucker's still climbing up, right? And it's closing at 80 degrees after BDC, which is, it's getting everything it can out of that fucking thing. The timing on this thing is way below stock, not above stock. It actually just loves having late timing. We tried advancing it just to see if you can gain a little more, you lose it. Now it's not fighting each other. In Formula One, that's done automatically by computers. As the engine revs up to really max horsepower, they retard the timing to get faster top end. We're getting it just by fixed timing. And as you can see, it starts easy, it doesn't kick back. It's a joy to start, but uses a British transmission, British clutch, 50 pitch primary chain. That's about it. So it's ready to go. Hopefully it'll beat a fucking rough Superior.
And you've got dual aircraft spark plugs?
Dual aircraft spark plugs. You can't follow those fucking things no matter what you do. They're cold too, which is good, so you're never going to get pre-ignition. Like, you're going 5 miles, actually going about 4 miles, but 4 miles wide open is that's a long way wide open at those speeds. So, and then you've got the traction at Bonneville is virtually fucking zero, or it can be. Traction on a drag strip is considered 3, a number of 3. At Bonneville, it's considered 0.1. So like they say, it's like driving a pig on ice.
Yep.
And that's what it's like. So if you get any wind or you start to go, you just try to use body English to keep it straight. You don't want to use any great fucking movements. And but if you do fall at Bonneville, unless your bike hits you, there's nothing to hit. For 50, 40 miles.
So you got a tack up on the top there? What else is
That's just cylinder head tank, front and back. And this is their tiny tack. And they work great. They're fantastic. So it's just a little thing, takes no power. It wraps around one lead of the magneto, and then you just punch it in what cylinder it is. If it's twin or a 4-cylinder or a single cylinder. And that's it. And this is for the nitrous oxide when it's running. It isn't running nitrous now, but when you're running nitrous, that's for the nitrous oxide. You hit that, and then there's a fuel pump and jets and everything that just give it that extra boost. And you gain about 15, maybe 20% with nitrous oxide. So you can probably get about, we figure their engine's putting out about probably around 38 horsepower.
Yeah.
And with nitrous, it'd probably be around 45.
So you'll be happy if you get 108 miles an hour out
Yeah,
of
I'd be
it?
really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll have those records too.
Yeah.
So we'll have all the 750 records at Bonneville.
Nice.
I mean, and that vintage.
Yeah.
And that includes overhead, because even the records we hold now are still against overhead valves. When we originally took it was an Indian that held it for years and years, for right into the 40s. It was an Indian that held the record at 104 miles an hour. And that was in memory of Bobby Scott. Whoever Bobby Scott is, I don't know who he is, but that's the record we first beat. And then we added to that. And now this one, I want to beat that Bruff Superior just because.
What was top speed on it?
On this one, I'm hoping, like I say, if it'll do, I think roughly it'll do about 108. I'm hoping.
108 miles an hour.
I'm hoping it'll do 108. That's a top. And then fuel, I think around 120. Right around there, 115 to 120.
So with your cylinder head temperatures here,
Yeah.
how do you find it is overheating? Is it getting too hot, or is there the same temperature?
No, I want to know what it's doing, especially for tuning, right?
Yeah.
I can see,
Yeah.
okay, if I'm getting too high on the back cylinder or whatever,
Yeah.
I can readjust the jetting, because I've got two separate carburetors. You can always rich in one or whatever. And you can see on the back,
Yeah.
there's a cooling shroud that just tucks it in over the back exhaust valve,
Okay,
because the
yeah.
exhaust valve sits right here.
Yeah.
Harley, that's one thing, that's again showing what Harley knew about flatheads.
Yeah.
On other flatheads, like English flatheads, there's a timing, or there's a valve chest instead of the tubes.
Yeah.
Well, Harley has behind this, there's a hole that goes right through besides the cylinder.
Yeah.
That'll cool the valves. You never have problems with valve warpage with a 45. The English valves, that's why everybody in England thinks like a 40 a flathead is an inferior engine. Well, it isn't an inferior engine. It was an inferior British designed engine. The Harley knew how to
Adjust that.
to get
Make the
around that,
differences,
and the materials they used in their valves and seats were much better. So they didn't show those problems. And even to this day, now they're even looking at, and they're seeing now, a lot of people are seeing that with modern fuel injection and timing control, or e.g., engine computer monitoring, flathead engines could actually see a comeback.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
a cast engine, isn't it?
What's
Is
that?
that cast?
No, the barrels are cast,
Yeah,
the
the barrels
heads are aluminum.
Okay.
And this bike, the original 45s, the pistons and that on them came within 1/8 of an inch before hitting the fucking head. On this one, so it had no Ricardo effect at all. Now it's got, it's 35 thou, which gives it super fucking good combustion without bringing up the fucking compression ratio, which only gives you more heat and not that much more power.
What is
Like
the compression ratio?
it's 6.5, right to 1, and they're CC. We know exactly what it is. But 6.5. The original KRTT was 4.5 to 1. The one they won against 4-cylinder Hondas and 3-cylinder Tridents. They won 2 years in a row at Daytona. And we talked to the guy that built the bike, Branch. He was part of it. It had 4.5 to 1 compression.
That's it.
That's what they had, 4.5 to 1. And they went 150 miles an hour at Daytona. And he seen us there with our bike at Bonneville and came up to us and talked to us for 2.5 hours. He says, you guys did some tuning to get a 45 to do 110 miles an hour at Bonneville. And I says, well, you guys did 150. He says, that ain't at Bonneville. That was on pavement and that was at sea level.
Yeah.
He says, it's a whole different course here. He knew it. And so it was a really cool thing to meet him and
Was that 150 mile an hour with a fairing, or?
Yeah.
So
But
that
still,
too.
anyway, fuck.
Hey Ted, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I get you to make a draw?
Yeah,
and
sure.
take further
Yeah,
questions?
right now.
I'm going to get Jeff here and our photographer.
Thanks, Ted. Appreciate it. Take your tissues out.
Oh yeah, geez, thanks. That would not have been.
Nope.
No, that wouldn't have been good.
Dennis. Dennis and me. And it's got gas.
So what's happening on those carburetors that get straight into the cell and then that's all just fuel related.
Thanks a bunch, Ted.
Hey,
Thanks a bunch.
you're welcome. Thanks for saying.
And good luck in at Bonneville.
Thank you.
Yeah, right on.
Knees in the way, right?
Start over again.
Okay.
Okay.
Gary came up with this. The fucking, if you got your Kickstarter, right, on your bike, okay, you want to kneel on here, you want to go right over. Okay, your knee's going to be in here, right? You push this. It pulls out of the way.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Came up with it.
But actually,
That's pretty cool.
this is for the fuel class. You got to have a spring-loaded gas valve.
Okay.
So in case, you know,
Oh, so you can turn it off.
just hit that.
Yeah.
That's the rule. There's no chokes on it.
Well, you wonder how an axle can get that.
Room for it, but if you watch certain point, you'll see a fog or a mist in the intake.